mean, I think there's always, two people in any kind of athletic position. It's either you're talented and, you have those people that are talented, don't have to work hard, and they're just, it's kind of annoying for those that aren't talented because they don't have to work very hard and they're just good at it.
We've
and
seen
then you
the
have
type.
people who are like, yeah, I'm grinding and I'm getting 1% better each day, but that 1%, over time is going to be more than that person that has that talent.
The Heart and Hard Work podcast lets us walk alongside extraordinary people, reflecting on their stories to share learnings, mindsets, and actions that help us be our best. I'm the host, Rob Maloney. I've been guided by teammates, leaders, and mentors through life's most intense challenges, and they've empowered me to build this podcast space so we can grow together. We all face different challenges running our own races, but we can celebrate the power of our diverse stories, united by the thread of building our best selves with heart and hard work. This one's going to be awesome. This is exactly the kind of conversation that I hoped and wished I could have when I started a podcast, to get to talk to people like Danny Masrin, who has built quite the professional resume, winning multiple times on the local Indonesian circuit, as well as claiming the best finish by an Indonesian player at the biggest event on home soil, the Indonesian Masters, where he tied for 5th place among players who have played in the Masters, the Open Championship, and other major events. He's one of only 2 Indonesian players to ever have had full playing rights on the Asian Tour and reached a world ranking best of 450 right as COVID hit. Now, I know what it feels like to get smashed by COVID, right when you're thinking that a dream is taking off. Danny, thanks for being here today.
Yeah, it's great being here, Rob. Thank you so much. I'm excited about this.
So what are you drinking for joining with our listeners today?
Well, it's since we're literally on opposite time zones, 9:30 p.m. I got whiskey with me right here.
I'm jealous. I have a little decaf coffee, but I threw on my spiffy Bad Birdies polo. They're not sponsoring me, but they do have fresh polos. So I do love these. It's awesome to have a chance to speak with you, not only just because you're a professional athlete, but the way in which you went about becoming a professional athlete and the heart and hard work that it took to get there is going to be a huge theme of our conversation. So before we go any further, Danny, I want to give you the chance to connect with our listeners and let them know really, how do you want to be witnessed?
Yeah, thanks. I think if I had to answer that question as simply as I can, when I first moved back to Indonesia and decided to pursue professional golf, the way I described it, I think kind of stunned people, at least here, because I would describe myself as an entrepreneur. And I say that because we possess many of the same qualities as an entrepreneur. We start the year with no guaranteed salary. We have to find sponsors. And so, we're in that boat of you are what you make of your situation in that sense. So that's how I look at myself as an entrepreneur. And I think, being able to have the opportunity to play golf for Indonesia, I'm half Indonesian, half American, but I choose to play for Indonesia. It's given me a lot of opportunities, and yeah, it's been exciting to be able to take this entrepreneurial mindset, which I actually as well minored in college, and kind of change the way maybe you look at golf in that sense. Not so much traditional as it's just another sport, but more like, it is a business. I am, my own boss, so to speak. It's one of the only individual sports where, you have to be your own boss and you have to be your own, critic at the same time. So.
Nice. Yeah. I took a sip when you talked about changing the mindset, because that's going to be a huge theme that we're talking about, and changing the way that people think. One of the things I love about connecting with you is not only that you brought up Bali, which incredible country, I mean, city in Indonesia, where we got to meet, in Jakarta as well. I just was blown away with the humility, really, of getting to meet you. And even when we were talking and setting up this podcast, you said, I'm someone who's not talented, but works hard to succeed, right? That's what the spirit of heart and hard work is all about. And like your superpower that you brought up, your ability to keep your mind at ease and stay focused on the task at hand, which right now is this conversation, and being a part of sharing that mindset with other listeners. So I just think that's really awesome. That's really worth pointing out.
Yeah. And I think there's always 2 people in any kind of athletic position. It's either you're talented and, you have those people that are talented, don't have to work hard, and they're just, it's kind of annoying for those that aren't talented because they don't have to work very hard and they're just good at it.
We've
And
seen
then you
the
have
type.
people who are like, yeah, I'm grinding and I'm getting 1% better each day, but that 1%, over time is going to be more than that person that has that talent.
Right. So talk about what that 1% has meant for you, because I know that's a big part of your story. So how is getting 1% better? What does that look like for you in your story?
So my biggest thing over the last, I think a good way to put it is like back in 2000 and would it be 2000, the beginning of 2019, had a goal in mind to kind of try and qualify for the Olympics 2020. So basically had a year and a half to kind of get myself there. So that was the big goal. And the thing is, what are the steps that are going to be necessary to get there? I think the biggest thing for me, at least from the mental side, was creating a process that I could trust. Golf is one of those sports where there's so many elements that we can't control. And I think that's the key, for golf specifically, is that we have to be able to accept things, and we also have to be understanding of the expectations that are around. So to be able to, control what you can control,
right?
But also to build a process that you can rely on when you're under the high pressure moments, I think is a very important thing. But for me, it's what's helped me during my best moments to play consistently and be able to move forward. And that would be, for me, the 1% better is sticking to my process and moving forward from there.
Yeah, I know, myself included, a lot of golfers that if we could control everything on the golf course, we'd be right there with you on the tour. But what does that process look like for you?
Yeah. Well, I mean, specifically, the first thing that comes to mind for me is like every aspect of the game. So, I mean, for me, the part that has been the most important has been the short game. So the putting specifically. And so I have a very clear process. So if, there's videos of Tiger Woods where they literally time his routine, they call it, from the time he puts the ball down to the time he hits the shot. And I'd say that's kind of where that mentality came from as well, is like, if I can stick to my process, whether I'm confident or not, whether I'm comfortable about that putt or not, I know that I can trust the process, and whatever the outcome is, I can accept it because the process is the same. And if I know that the process is right, then it gives you that level of acceptance. And I think that comes to like the ease of your mind. Like, there's so many elements you can't control, but if you can control the things you can and be able to accept it, I think golf is also a lot about accepting things. Then, that's how you're able to build that 1% and kind of build that edge over competitors who aren't as, easily capable of accepting little things that can bug them.
Yeah, I think that I'm so glad you brought in like process-oriented measures, process-oriented goals, because that's really a game-changing thing that's worth everyone reflecting on. I think for myself, especially when I pick anything, whether it's training for the Ironman or learning Spanish or practicing piano, I not only found way more success, I found way more enjoyment when I switched the goals from performance-oriented to, let's say, losing weight. Like, I want to lose 10 pounds to I want to go to the gym for 30 minutes a day, 4 days a week, right? It's process oriented because I can achieve 30 minutes and know I'm done. I did my job. I showed up and I did it. And that consistency leads to the performance oriented goal. Or the same thing with practicing Spanish, 15 minutes a day while I go for a walk. Or the same thing with an Ironman. I just had to show up and go for a run for 1 hour, 1.5 hours, whatever it was. And then to get there, that's the trust part. I was reflecting on this a lot last night. The trust is knowing that if you do what you're supposed to do, then you can check that off, and then the performance part will come.
Yeah, and it's all about the preparation. Yeah, it's all about the preparation. I think for me, it's something that I had to learn over my career, right? And so obviously, like, over the last 5-6 years that I've been playing professionally, it's like every year or every week or every month, you come up with a new way to kind of maybe perfect that process a little more, or that preparation, right? Going to the gym, eating better, spending time on the mental side, or like things like that are all ways that we're trying to build this consistency. I mean, that's what we're all striving for in golf, right? Is consistency. But, to be able to have that routine, I think for me, routine is a big thing, because if you can just follow that routine, that means like, process, routine, if you can continue with these, it's just going to be very comfortable for you, and you'll never get uncomfortable, so to speak.
Wait, so you're saying you weren't born a professional golfer? that you had to work hard to get there?
No, I was late to the game. I grew up playing lots of sports actually. Yeah.
And talk about a little bit about your college experience and how you made a transition to when we look at people who have phenomenal routines, we think like, oh, let's just jump into them and start doing them exactly the way that they did it, as if it just happened overnight. But how was it built up for you?
Yeah, so I was very fortunate that I actually was a walk-on in college, and I was given the opportunity to qualify on the team. We were lucky that the team was quite small. I think there was 8 players on the team, and in college, there's 5 that are on the traveling team. So, I had a very good, the odds were, for me compared to being on a 14-man team and having to compete against all 14 guys. But yeah, I think when I talk to amateurs nowadays or juniors who ask me like, should I go play college golf? Like, what is your advice for me? I say, don't go to a school, that's well known for golf, that has a big team that you're going to sit on the bench. Go somewhere where you get to play. Doesn't matter if it means it's D2, D3, junior community college. Doesn't matter, right? If golf is what you want to do, you got to be playing to get better. If you don't get to practice, how are you going to improve? And so, I mean, I was fortunate enough that I didn't really have anybody to tell me this beforehand, but where I was, I just was in a place that, led me to where I am today. And I think this leads into like my coach, who he was very focused on the mental side, the psychological side of golf, and not even like, didn't even care about the golf swing, because in his mind, everybody at our level at that point could swing the club just as well as anybody else. But the one part that differentiated player from player was the 6 inches between your ears, basically. And so he basically, I can hear it over and over again. As he always said, he's like, I want to be able to look at you from 100 yards away and not be able to tell if you're 5 under par or 5 over par, just by the way you're walking, by the way you're holding your, standing in your golf bag, the way you're walking. Like, it's all about, this positive reinforcement, or like this positive psychological reinforcement that you give yourself, right? Saying that, you can versus you can't, or like focusing on where you want to be versus where you don't want to be.
Yeah, there's one of my favorite episodes. I shouldn't say that because I love them all, but one that was really excellent that stands out right now, I should say, it was Sherry Willman. She said, attitude and posture are the 2 things you can control. And I find that really relevant to the times when I've been on a golf course having a miserable day. Is because it's because of me internally, right? Yeah. Like, I chose to go out there and be really pissed off and be really annoying about like, as if I'm out here, putting in the work that you're putting in, because I'm not. But if I was, my high school football coach used to say, if you're catching 500 balls a day, then you can be mad when you drop one. If not, get back in line and go catch another one, like.
Yeah. So. And yeah, I mean, that's definitely the same for me. Like, it takes time, obviously. Like, you can't just go from, one day throwing clubs and getting pissed off to all of a sudden being this calm, cool, collected person, right? It takes time, and you have to learn of it. But I think, for maybe like some of the listeners out there and like amateur golfers, is like, it's all about like expectations, but understanding the reality. I think I try to tell a lot of, like, people come up to me and say like, oh, how do I get better? Or how do I like make all my putts inside 5 feet? I said, do you guys actually know the statistics of PGA Tour players that putt from 5 feet and in? A PGA Tour player on average from 5 feet is only 75%, which means they miss 1 out of every 4. Of course, when we watch TV, we only see the good shots. So we see them draining 25 footers, 30 footers, holding out from the fairway. Like, we don't see the bad, we only see the good. And this is where it took me time too to realize, until I started actually like taking, jotting down my stats and putting it into the system. Right. I didn't realize really like how good I actually was compared to the numbers versus what I thought I was compared to the numbers. And so that's, I mean, one of the ways that I was able to kind of, you manage your expectations, but you also are able to accept it as well. Cause like, it is a tough sport, and it's like, perfection. I think golf is one of those things that you're never going to achieve perfect. You ask a golfer, they can go out and shoot 59 and they're going to say, I could have shot 58, right. It's never perfect. So.
Right. 58 out of 72 would for most that might not understand, but whether it's golf we're talking about or anything in life, I mean, the concept that you're talking about, like, what gets measured gets managed. That what gets measured can be changed, can be improved. So if you're not taking account for the things you care about, if you're not measuring them in some process oriented way, this is what I would tell myself. If you're not measuring it, then how are you going to actually improve it? Because especially with golf, You'd be
Yeah.
miserable for 17 holes and then hit one good shot in the 18th, and you're like, "Woo! There goes." Now I'm ready to go
Exactly.
blow another
Yeah.
load of money on
Yeah.
another round of golf.
Yeah, exactly.
Easy to
Exactly.
forget. But so I really love the point you started to bring up. You started to talk about, I didn't have someone to tell me that. I didn't have someone looking over and really to give you oversight and give you guidance at that time. And I think that really plays into the message that you were going to send to yourself. That I know you prepared a message in advance, right, to yourself at a previous point in time. And I think this would be a really great chance to talk about that. And then we can reflect on that. So do you want to share that message?
Sure. Okay. So this is a message to my, if I was sending a message to my previous self back then, this is what it'd say. It'd be, Dear Danny, golf might be the hardest game you will ever play. Despite the fact that you love puzzles and enjoy trying to brainstorm solutions to different challenges, golf is just different. I can guarantee there will be moments of happiness and success, but also moments of failure and the sense of why am I playing this stupid game? But if I could share one thing that will keep you patient and keep you motivated, is the 6 inches between your ears that will keep you sane and what separates you from others. Control what you can control and build a process that you can lean on and trust during the high pressure moments. And then I ended it with a quote that I really liked, which is, winners are those people who make a habit of doing the things losers are uncomfortable doing. And this quote came from actually in college in our gym. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday, we'd go in there and they had what they called Whiteboard Wednesday. And I used to keep all of them because they would post it on Twitter, and I'd keep them all because they were like motivational quotes, but they were so good. And I think that inspired me too on the mental side of things, like just something to hold on to while you're practicing to keep you going.
Yeah, we love quotes on this podcast. They're definitely very powerful.
Oh, I got lots of them.
Can you say that one again for us, and feel free to bring up more in the future. Hit us with that
sure.
one again.
So it's from Ed Foreman, who I actually don't know, but I love the quote. And it's, winners are those people who make a habit of doing the things losers are uncomfortable doing. Yeah, it's a good one.
That's definitely worth taking a sip on.
Yeah, it's strong.
So there's a ton to think about in that message in itself. The first thing is, do you think that it's got really awesome hindsight, really awesome perspective and maturity? Do you think that Danny at that age would listen to it? Or what would he say?
Okay, so to be honest, when I wrote this, I was thinking of a specific moment in time when I probably needed to hear this. It was a moment in time when I was sitting in my hotel room, and I think I may have just missed the cut or just played really poorly in an Asian Development Tour event. And I was thinking to myself, like, what am I doing? Like, why, maybe I should just go find a job. Like, this is kind of like a waste of my time. And I thought about quitting, This was probably only, let's say, a year and a half into it. And now maybe just, to reference, like when I first started, I kind of gave myself a mental kind of timeline saying, I'll give this 3 to 5 years. And if in that time frame, I don't see myself making a career out of it, meaning getting better each year for whatever, metrics that I may be basing that off of, then maybe it's time to move on. But up until COVID, I was seeing improvement every year. And so I was like, okay, then we're still moving in the right direction. So let's keep going until we can't go any further.
Damn. So at the truest sense, building a process and even having a timeline. And so with that, being in your younger self, I'm just curious now. I didn't think about this question ahead of time, so you wouldn't have. But what do you think Danny at that age would have said back to you?
I think at that point in time, I was very aware of like my mental state in terms of I accepted and appreciated a lot of that feedback when it came to the mindset, because I was very interested in it. I was reading a lot of the mental books about it. I think there's a book called Vision 54, written by Annika Storstensen, which is another great, golf book for those out there. Gives you a lot of games and mental, kind of mental games you can play with yourself on the golf course too. But yeah, I think I was the kind of person that I would listen to things. I may not have verbalized that I accepted it, but it was always something that, I would keep that information there and maybe give it a try here and there. And over time, you kind of build your own assessment of whether this is for me or not for me. But I think I've definitely learned, at this point in my life that, a lot of this psychological, like positive reinforcement is definitely a beneficial tool that, maybe a lot of us don't, underutilized basically.
Yeah, we're talking a lot about metacognition throughout every episode of this podcast, and just really thinking about the way that we think. But you also noted that that's really your superpower, right? Your ability to keep your mind at ease and stay focused on the task at hand. And so I'm wondering how that translates to in golf, as well as in life and in business and the different things that you do. What does that look like for you? You just brought up some games. Maybe what does it look like for you to be able to keep your mind at ease and stay focused?
Yeah, so I think it goes back to being able to control what you can control, right? I mean, the things we can control are the way we think, the way we react, the way we act. And I think, if we can do those things and be comfortable and be okay with the way we're going about our process, it just makes it comfortable, right? It makes it, it puts yourself at ease knowing that, what I think I'm doing is right. I can control what I'm doing. So any factor that would come, any basically uncontrollable factor that would, put me off my path, I can accept it, because I know that what I'm doing is right, and it will work out, most of the time, but not all the time, especially in the golf sense, right? And so, yeah, I mean, even nowadays, I'll still have times when I practice or play and I get pissed off, but then I try to remind myself that, like, why are you here, right? You're better than this, and let's try and turn it around, because sometimes it's more fun to challenge yourself to try and turn around a bad day or a bad round rather than just smooth sailing on a good day. Because those are the easy times, right? You don't have to worry about things going your way. It's the days that are not going your way where you really get to work on improving yourself from a mental point of view, and physical point of view, and trying to make something out of it, and learning from that is like, oh, I can do it if I really like put my mind to it, focus on my process, and worry less about the outcome, then I can really do what I'm trying to do.
Right. I think that's super powerful. I'm now just thinking about all of the one-liners, right? So I started playing golf because of my older brother, and he's been not only like an inspiration for me, but really it's something that we can do together to bond. Yep. He's 10 years older than me, so it's always been tough for us to connect, but golf has been one of the ways that we've stayed connected, and he really helped me improve. I enjoyed playing with him the most because he kept me focused on exactly the thing that was in front of me. And a lot of that was through one-liners. So throughout the golf game, right, like you said, you can look at the golf course and you look at one particular hole, let's say 450 yards. You're like, wow, that's really far. But to your point, the furthest distance on a golf course is the 6 inches between your ears.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So it's mental. And so he would always come up with something like, rule number 1 in the sand, get out of the sand.
Yeah.
Right. So
pretty much
I'm in the sand right now. It doesn't matter everything else. Whatever led me to getting here, I got to get out of it. Right.
Or if you're in trouble, get out of trouble. That's like the key.
Doesn't matter where you end up, just get out, just get out of trouble. Right. So that's something that helps keep me grounded and focused. Or, 150 straight and easy is better than 220 in the woods.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah.
Right. Do you have any more of those one-liners? What else do you have for us?
I think another one-liner quote that I have is, I don't know if it's from somebody or something that I just heard from, like, people over and over, is like, just everyone's got to get comfortable with being uncomfortable, right? Yeah. Because you got to be able to adjust. You got to be able to, like, adapt, right? I mean, what I find so beautiful about the game of golf is that it's the only sport where we change our stage or our court every time we play, right? And even day on day, it can change. The weather conditions, the wind, the temperature, the humidity, rain, how your body's feeling for that matter. Like, all of this can change. And sometimes I think compared to other sports, this is the one where you have to be able to change and adapt faster and more frequently than other sports. And that's what I think is, like, amazing. You can go out there and have a great day putting. You can have 25 putts, which is considered amazing, right? And shoot, 65. And then the next day you could be hitting it just as good or better, but not make a single putt and shoot 72. And you're like, well, what changed? And sometimes you explain it. It's just literally, it could just be a blade of grass on the putting green that happened not to go your way. So I do think that golf has a lot of luck, which is why I would say that golfers are, psychopaths to a certain extent. I mean, I think of all athletes, golfers have the most superstitions, and they're the most insane superstition you'll ever think of.
Like what?
So, I mean, like, I know people who like they have to have 4 golf tees in their pockets at all time. If one breaks, they got to replace it. When they mark their ball on the putting green, it's got to be tails up, can't be heads up.
Right.
When I mean, there's a lot. I mean, some
Right.
people have chew gum. Some people can't eat on the golf course. It's insane.
As you were saying that too, you're like, it could be a beautiful day and you shoot really well. It could be a beautiful
Yeah,
day and you shoot. And to me, I just think of like all the times I've played with someone and how the same thing can end up
yeah,
being both the reason why you're doing well and the excuse why you're doing so poorly. Like, yeah, I'm shooting really well. I guess it's a beautiful day, or I'm shooting really poorly. It's a beautiful day because I'm
yeah,
used to playing in terrible weather. So I'm not used to this air pressure. It's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
so
No,
many
yeah. I
different
mean, back
things.
to, I mean, your original question was one-liners. I mean, I think there's a lot, and it's not maybe all specific to golf. I think I kind of live life with a lot of like kind of quotes that kind of
Yeah.
keep me motivated to keep going, because I think there are a lot of strong and powerful like statements out there that are, good to live by sometimes.
And they help us for me, they help me ground myself in the moment. The reason why I love quotes is like, it helps me like, oh, this is a situation where this quote is really applicable. So if you
Yeah.
have any quotes, send them because they definitely help
Oh
us
heck,
be
I
more
mean,
present.
because like I said, I used to save all the ones from my college days, and they were basically they called it whiteboard Wednesdays, right?
Right.
And I mean, I probably deleted a lot of them, but I still have some of them, and they're some are very good.
I actually, I have a notes tab in my phone too. And I just capture like the quote. Sometimes I shouldn't say quote of the day because there's multiple in a day, but
Oh
I'm
yeah,
like, this is useful for something. Or then I write down my own thoughts as if like anyone really cares. But the point
yeah,
being like, they help me. Right. So one that I was
yeah,
really thinking about, was thinking about, I was listening to an audiobook yesterday. And it was like, when you're on the way to the top, and this is actually interesting. When you're on the way to the top, the air gets thinner.
mm,
And so most people want to take a break. They want to breathe out. They want to relax. But the
yeah,
higher and higher you climb, the thinner the air is. So the harder you have to work to get that air back in. And
yeah,
it was just like a simple quote, but it was like, don't breathe out.
yeah, yeah,
Like hold your ground, like hold out longer because you're on the way up. It's only going to get harder to breathe back in. But
yeah,
just don't breathe out. And that's what it said in my phone. And what you just said before, like the Ed Foreman quote, winners are those
yeah,
people who make a habit of doing the things losers are uncomfortable doing. Those
yeah,
are powerful.
yeah, yeah,
I wanted to talk a little bit too, like we've had a chance now to get to connect with more of your processes, more of the behind the scenes, the behind the stories. Really cool to get to walk alongside you. I knew this episode was going to go longer because we still have a ton of questions that I want to get to, and this is
yeah,
awesome. But so we've been dismantling a lot of misconceptions, right? Like when we look at people on the Olympic podium or in the Masters or professional sports, we think, wow, these people are truly just born different. They're different than us. And I really love that your story is more about the heart and hard work that it took to get there. That's why I've been
yeah.
loving this conversation so far. And I want to just give a chance specifically to talk about misconceptions and in your experience, what's the biggest misconception about you and what you do that we would all benefit if we understood better?
Yeah, I think if you put it specifically like on me and maybe, as a professional golfer, it'd be the misconception that what I'm doing is fun and amazing. I think it's like any kind of job or career that anybody has, it always has its ups and downs, right? And people think, oh, you get to do what you love, as your job. It's got to be amazing. And yeah, it is to a certain extent. But I mean, if you actually look at, a schedule of a year for me, a standard year probably means I'm traveling 25 weeks of the year minimum. So that's 25 weeks that I'm away from home. And people think, oh, you get to travel to all these great countries. Because, for example, last year I went to Morocco, I went to Egypt, I went to England, I went to India, I went to Japan, Korea, Taiwan. You get to go all these great places. I'm like, yeah, sure. But I wouldn't consider, I wouldn't say that I got to explore these places, because I go there. I'm there for one reason. I go to the golf course, I go to the hotel, and I go to the gym, because I'm there to play golf tournament. I'm there to win a golf tournament, right? I'm not there to go sightsee and go see the pyramids or whatever it might be. And so I think that's like the misconception. People are like, oh, did you go travel? Did you go, did you go to these other cities? Did you go see these things? I'm like, well, no, that's not why I went. It's It's not like I'm there to go for a holiday. It's I'm there for work, and I go there for one reason. So I think like people think it's all fun and good, but it's 1 week living out of your suitcase, and it can get lonely sometimes too, right? I mean, you got to make friends with some of your competitors, so to speak, and that's kind of like the awkwardness and the beauty of the game at the same time, right? So I think that's probably the biggest misconception that I think that people, at least around me, have always said, oh, you get to travel the world and explore the world. That's amazing.
Do you find your competitors are usually pretty friendly? Like they're also looking to connect and make friends, or some people just like head down, like, I don't have time for you?
No, yeah, I think definitely off the golf course, the golf world people are very friendly and very likable people. But yeah, once you get into tournament, of course, it's a different, I don't want to say we're wishing bad things upon the other person, but you always wish that you have better luck than the other person, of course. So,
all right, we get it. We're with you there. Is it also true? I heard a rumor that in your 21st birthday, you skipped school to go down to Florida and played a round of golf with Lee Westwood.
that is true. Yeah. I guess the backstory behind that is I actually so the first year that the Indonesian Masters was held in Jakarta was 2011. I was a senior in high school. I actually skipped school to play the tournament. I was an amateur at the time, and I finished last place. Lee Westwood was playing that week. I met him for the first time during the gala dinner and whatnot. He won the tournament. On my 21st birthday, my dad had the connection to him from the tournament and asked if he would send me a signed picture or something for my 21st birthday. And I still have the email. It's actually laminated. And his response was, "Oh, sure, but why don't he come down to Florida and we'll play a round of golf?" And I'm like, wow, like, sure, yeah. So it was just the two of us playing a round of golf in Florida. I think it was a Wednesday or a Thursday. I skipped school and it was great.
Damn, that's pretty awesome.
Not many people get to do that. Yeah, it's pretty cool.
That is definitely unique. That's a cool, special story. But it makes me think too, as you're talking about leading the tournament, winning the tournament, the would you rather question that you brought for us.
Yeah,
right? So I think it's a perfect time for that. So
Sure.
would you rather, right? You said, would you rather be chasing the leader or leading the tournament?
Yeah.
And what was your
I
answer?
try to make it very specific to golf, just because I think like it is a question that gets asked a lot of times to players that are in that position. Like, would you rather be hanging on, so to speak, or would you rather be like having to chase and have to put pressure on? And I'd say, like, from my experience, I probably had both, but I think it's fun when you have to chase because you have a clear goal, you have a clear target, and that's it. That it is what it is. Like, you have to outplay that person. Whereas if you're leading a golf tournament, now you're like, well, I don't know how anybody else is going to play. I don't know how well I'm going to play. I don't know how well I need to play for it to be enough. So it's kind of hard to set that target when you don't know what's in front of you when you're already at the front. You know what I mean? So it'd be similar, like if you're doing, a triathlon or something. Like, would you rather be like in second place trying to out sprint that first place person at the end, or would you rather be the first place person looking behind your back, seeing what he's doing and trying to, just be in front of him just by a little bit? So I guess I don't know. Everyone's going to have a different opinion on it. I think I like the chasing part because I think it's a clear target. This is what you have to do, and there's no other option. And so that's what it is. And I guess an example, like last week, I just played a local golf tournament here in Jakarta. It was a 3-day tournament. I was chasing from behind. I was one shot back going into the final day. I was actually one shot back going into the last hole in par 5. And, I know what the job is. I got to make birdie at least, or I got to beat this guy at least by one shot to get into the playoff. And, I didn't have the best tee shot, but I had a second shot, and I had to think about this. I'm like, well, I could lay up because it's a par 5, but I'm like, well, I have to make a birdie, otherwise it's over. So I might as well go for it. Right? I got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So I went for it, and it paid off in the end. Made it to the playoff, and I ended up losing in a 4-hole playoff. But the moral of the story is, like, I think the chasing is so much more fun. I think it's much more motivating, and for me, it kind of gives more of an adrenaline rush than having to like kind of hold the position of being in the front.
Right. And having the target attracts the arrow. So that's another one of the one-liners. The target attracts the arrow. Like human beings, the human mind, from all of the research and all of the reading and all of the psycho-cybernetics and the books that I indulge with, they all point to the same thing, that the human being is designed to strive. We were made to strive for something. So we do so much better thriving, chasing towards something. And another quote too, that came up as I was scrolling through: constant dripping hollows out a stone.
Mhm.
Constant dripping hollows out a stone. Just the persistence, that one drop. But you think about it, thousands of years later, you got a hollow stone, right? And so, like, as you were telling your story, I was just thinking about that persistence, and I'm just like, Danny's taking one drop at a time, one drop at a time. So that's awesome. Wrapping up, this has been an awesome conversation, but I want to take something for the road. So I'm going to throw you into a little rapid fire. We're going to kind of wrap up everything we talked about, a little bit of summarizing. Some new stuff's going to come up too. We're going to have some fun with it. I got a series of rapid fire questions for you. You ready?
Okay, let's go.
All right. It's tough to describe the intangible nature of it, but to me, heart and hard work is all about
determination. That's what it is for me.
A quote that drives me because it helps me remember who I am and align with who I want to be is?
Well, I think it goes back to the two ones that I mentioned. One is, winners are those people who make a habit of doing the things losers are uncomfortable doing. And then to kind of go off that is, be comfortable, or get comfortable with the uncomfortable, because you're going to be uncomfortable a lot.
Definitely. The most important book from my shelf is?
It's Train Your Mind for Athletic Success. That's a book for me that had a lot of inspiration. I actually found it in my notes that I had a lot of notes from it. It was great. If I could like share all of it, it'd be awesome. But
Train Your Mind for Athletic Success. Awesome.
Yeah.
A movie that gets me pumped is?
Coach Carter. I mean, who doesn't get pumped with Coach Carter? I know it's basketball, but I mean, it's so motivational. It's good.
It is. That is the first place where I heard the Marianne Williamson poem, Our Deepest Fear. That poem has meant a lot to me in my life. I actually have the core part of it tattooed on my ribs. It says, as we let our own light shine, we unconsciously give other people permission to do the same.
Yeah, it's a great movie.
What is the best advice I've been given on my road that I wished I realized sooner?
So I learned to not let others dictate my routine or my practice, but do what you need to be prepared. And I think the backstory to that is, like, traveling and trying to make it on tour. You're trying to save costs, save expenses by rooming with people and trying to go together in an Uber or whatever to try to save costs. But if the expense of going with somebody to save costs there is you not being fully prepared for the tournament, it's not worth it. And I think that's something that I learned from a good friend who's also a golfer, saying that if you need to practice, you keep practicing. Until you're ready to go, don't go. Even if you're going to save a couple dollars here or there, it's not worth it.
Invest in yourself.
Invest in yourself. Yeah.
The worst advice I wasted time believing that we all need to avoid the trap of is?
That you need to have the perfect swing, or that there is a perfect swing for you. I think it's taken me a long time to realize this, but as long as you know two things, the direction your ball's going and how far it's going, that's the key to golf. How it gets there does not matter at all. And I think that's the biggest thing, that, like, as amateur golfers, we're watching these great golf swings. We want to be like him. We want to be like her. But if you can get out of that and just focus on you, because you are a unique person, your body works differently, that's what's going to get you going. So that was probably the worst advice, the worst kind of information I got, thinking that I had to have the perfect golf swing.
Nice. That's good, because now I can let go of that myself. I'll take a sip.
Yeah. No, you don't need to be perfect.
We all need to think again about?
I think it goes back to kind of like what we talked about, is whether talent is better or hard work and determination can defeat talent. I think that's, kind of the moral of this kind of conversation as well, is what's stronger, what's going to beat it, what would people prefer, right?
Right. And hard work beats talent when talent doesn't work hard.
I think so. Yeah.
Throw in a quote, just
another one. Yeah,
we'll fit as many one-liners as we can. Right?
I've heard that one. Yeah.
Or talent times effort equals skill. Skill times effort equals achievement. That's Grit by Angela Duckworth, and a phenomenal book as well. It just talks about the impact. Malcolm Gladwell. We can go quotes for days, but we eventually have to wrap up a conversation.
Well, I think you learn a lot more. I mean, it goes back. You learn a lot more from the process and from failing than you do from having the talent and not practicing. Right.
So. Absolutely. We can even get into the math of the actual equations, but we don't have time. What's a fake superpower that you wish you had?
I've always wished I could just teleport, because I tell you what, traffic at least in Jakarta, traffic sucks. Traveling on a plane to country sucks. Like, if I could just teleport, it'd be the greatest thing.
And you've already said your superpower, but I think it's worth putting on again. What's your real life superpower?
I mean, for me, it's the 6 inches between the ears. It's what I've learned over time. It's my experiences. It's, the processes I've been able to create over time. And it's basically, striving to get 1% better every time you're practicing every day.
Definitely. And to me, the best symbol of heart and hard work is, last question.
This is one thing that I still continue to, struggle with, but it's doing the practice or doing the workout when you absolutely have no desire or energy. And to me, this is what separates you from others. It's actually something, I'm just going to add a little something, because it's something I just saw on Instagram just now. And it was about discipline versus motivation. Discipline is like routine. If you're disciplined, you're going to do it, whether you feel like you're or not, because you have to do it. Whereas motivation, you need a reason to do it. Discipline doesn't need a reason. Motivation does.
Right. You're on Instagram in the middle of our interview?
No, this was before. I was just looking at some more information.
I was kidding.
No, but I'll tell you what, is that Instagram over the last 6 months, this mindset accounts and all this stuff has been very kind of helpful for just getting back into golf post-COVID. And if I could share one more thing, it was, I think it was the lady you mentioned earlier. And it was talking about how our brains are designed to protect us. And so we can reset our mind. And I've been using it a lot, where I just basically count backwards before I hit a golf shot to just clear your mind from the water or the heavies. And I just 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And you literally have no thought as you're hitting the golf ball. And it's like the greatest thing.
Right. It's that I think you're talking about Mel Robbins. I don't think we had a chance to bring her up, but she has the 5-second rule, which is powerful. Yeah, that's something that's ingrained in my psyche. I use that even in the morning just to get out of bed, or when you got to do something. I actually set timers for everything now. Setting timers is huge, but the 5, 4, 3, 2, 1 rule, she talks about don't let your brain reptile eat your brain dog. The puppy, the inner puppy dog in you that wants to go connect to everyone, that's fun loving, that's not stressed. If you wait too long, that inner reptile is going to snatch him up. So you gotta take him off the leash and let him fly. So exactly. Danny, this has been really awesome. The only disappointment is that the conversation eventually has to come to an end. Folks are listening in the morning, making their coffee. They're spending a couple extra minutes today before they log on. Sometimes they're driving in the car. Hopefully they're not drinking whiskey in the car today, as you got to enjoy. But I just want to say thank you for being with us. And I'm going to wrap up with one last message from you, and I'm going to let that take out the episode. I might even repeat it for you, but I want that to be the closing note. I just want to say thanks for being with us. And then I want to give you a chance to leave your one last note, one last message for yourself and for listeners to turn that hindsight into foresight for all of us.
Yeah. Well, firstly, thanks, Rob. I mean, I always enjoy talking about the mental side of the golf game, because if people ask me, what would you do if you weren't golfing? And I say, I'd like to do something with golf, but I don't want to teach golf. If I could somehow teach the mentality that's required to be successful as a golfer or as a person, that is what excites me. I mean, I think we both, we're both interested and very excited about this topic. And so if we can teach people about it and let them really hone in on their full capacity, that's what it's at. And I think it leads into exactly what I want to leave people with, is that every person has a 15th club in their golf bag. You're only allowed 14, but everyone has a 15th club, and that is your mind. So train it and make it the most effective weapon, because it's the thing you can control.
Say it one more time, and then I'm just gonna cut it. It's powerful.
Sure. So every person has a 15th club, even though you're only allowed 14 in your golf bag. That 15th club is your mind. So train it and make it the most effective weapon.
From me and the whole podcast team, thank you for joining this conversation of heart and hard work. We hope you'll follow so you can continue to grow with us. If you enjoyed this episode, a great way to turn your reflections into meaningful action is by commenting, sharing, or liking us on your favorite podcast platform, Instagram, Facebook, or LinkedIn. It also really helps share insights from stories of heart and hard work with the people who can benefit from them the most.